week 10 of the fantasy football season. And here's a few defenses I would drop this week. The first one, the New Orleans Saints. So the Saints, they've been an up and down defense this season here in fantasy circles. The last 2 weeks before week 9, they had great ball games. Week 7 at Seattle, they had 10 fantasy points. Week 8 versus a tough Tampa Bay Buck offense, they still had a great game in that one as well with 16 fantasy points. But right here in week 9 versus a mediocre Atlanta Falcon offense, they only had 3 fantasy points. And now in week 10, they got a very tough matchup at the Tennessee Titans that didn't miss a beat without Derrick Henry, beating the Los Angeles Rams in week 9. So right here, this Saint defense, they got to go on the road. And they're strong at home, no doubt about it. But on the road now, it's going to be tough for them, in my opinion, especially with a Tennessee Titan offense hitting on all cylinders. A.J. Brown's looked great this season. Julio Jones is back in the lineup and looks healthy for now. And even Adrian Peterson filling in and forming for Derrick Henry. This ball game, in my opinion, versus a tough Ram offense. So this week, I don't think the Saints are usable at a tough Tennessee Titan team, in my opinion. The next defense I would drop is the Miami Dolphins. So the Dolphins were a 1 week ad last week where they had a great matchup, no doubt about it, versus the Houston Texans. And they came through with a good fantasy game. But this week here, in week 10, a very tough matchup versus the Baltimore Ravens on Thursday Night Football. So right here, they're not going to be usable, in my opinion, is Miami. The only other time I think you really could count on them is week 11 at the New York Jets, but I wouldn't waste a bench spot to hold on to Miami this week. They got added in 42% of fantasy leagues coming into this week, but now with the tough matchup versus Baltimore, their defense I would easily drop this week. And the third and final defense I would drop is the Cincinnati Bengals. So the Bengals, offensively and defensively, just a very weird team and puzzling team this season, in my opinion, is the Bengals. They got off to a hot start on both ends, and now they really fizzled out and cooled off is this roster. And now with going into the bye, they're an easy drop, in my opinion, is the Cincinnati Bengal team. So they lost to the Jets, they lost to Cleveland, and the defense the last 2 weeks haven't done much. They gave up 34 points to the Jets in week 8, and week 9 versus Cleveland, 35 points allowed and only 2 sacks. So right here with the bye week and then another pretty tough matchup in Vegas in week 11, there's no use for this Bengal defense in fantasy circles. So that's a few defenses I would drop here in week 10 of the fantasy football season.